is Mauricio Bañuelos, and today we're going to go ahead and present the family business simulation on Honey Heritage, along with my group Abigail, Ramon, Chris, Jesse, myself, and Frank. So let's go ahead and start off with the part one, which is going to be the decisions. So now let's kick it off with decision number one. So we actually have two decisions here, which is focusing time and money on the business for Arnold, or spending quality time with his family while maintaining business responsibilities. So let's break down number one, which is going to be just more profits and having more success, and he's just going to have higher status. The cons here is that he's going to go ahead and have low family involvement. The family might have some kind of resentment towards him, and in the future, if he ever wants them to join the business, they might not want to. So now let's move on to decision number two, just spending more quality time with both. So the pros here is that he'll have a successful business and also a happy family, which is great. At the same time, this can help in the long run. Like I mentioned earlier, they might want to join the family business and they're actually going to enjoy it just because they love their dad and they actually enjoy time with them. So now the cons is that he, just balancing all the tasks, businesses. So the cons here is that he's just going to have to balance everything that life has to throw at you, and also having the family and the business as well to go ahead and maintain. So the choice that we decided here is going to be decision number two, just having involvement in both. So in the family and also in the business. So this can be really good and bad just because there are some efficient family members who provide a lot of value to the business, but then at the same time, there are some that just want a paycheck and just show up to show up. Should we have made a different decision? I think he should definitely still spend time with the family. I just think that he should have some kind of rules set out for the family as well, just so like that they can be on board for a successful business. So now moving on to decision number two, this is going to actually be two choices as well: continue to oversee the business operations or go ahead and let it go to Liam, which is his son. So on decision number one, to go ahead and oversee everything, he's going to have more control. Of course, the business would stay consistent, and it's just going to be something that he controls. In the cons, you never know, he might have some mental health issues just because of the stress and everything. He is older, so this might happen sooner or later, and he's not going to be as motivated and just as he was 5-10 years ago. So it's not going to be the same drive that he has. So now let's move on to number two, giving it to Liam. So let's talk about the pros. Arnold actually gets to retire early and he has no stress, and then the son goes ahead and takes it over, which is a great thing to do. The cons is that the business, if you go ahead and give it to someone completely random, let's go ahead and pretend that Liam is not getting the business. Sometimes the business can fail and do worse. But in this scenario, since he's going to also get advice and just be watched over by his dad, he can go ahead and do well. We actually did choice number two as well here. So we let go of the company to Liam. So he takes over the business along with his siblings, and then Albert passes. Would we make a different decision here? To be honest with you, no, just because I think it was a good decision because he gets to go ahead and just spend time with his family, spend time with his wife, and just, enjoy his savings that he had. And he probably didn't really provide much more information because a lot of his stuff was outdated. So it's better just to go ahead and let Liam and his family run it. So like that, they can go ahead and just elevate the business. And now we're on to decision number three, which is going to go ahead and be hiring professionals and keeping all major roles in the family. So in this scenario, we go ahead and talk about hiring CEOs for the business. So in this, let's go ahead and break down decision number one, which is hiring professionals. There's going to be a lot of less biased choices just because of family. So like that, if you hire experienced workers, they just have a lot of credentials that can go ahead and help them. They have different experiences from different jobs, and they're going to have different ideas. So like this, it helps the family business and just gets you to the next level. The cons is that you're going to have less family control. You're going to have to bust your butt to just elevate the brand. And also, this is where the family issues arise just because you're hiring a complete stranger to go ahead and do the job that they may want to do at the salary they wanted. So now let's talk about decision number two. So now the pros here on the keeping all the major roles in the family is that it's going to be an all family crew. You have all the control. There's not going to be any new people, so this doesn't cause any family drama. So there's not going to be any new structure happening, any different rules. Everything kind of stays the same. Here, let's talk about the cons. So there's limited growth, and this might actually hurt your opportunity to keep growing and reaching new clientele, just because you don't want to hire a new marketing manager or new CEOs that are going to bounce off different ideas. So what was our choice? We hired professionals. The family, of course, became upset and the new employees came in, but eventually they went ahead and just agreed with us that we made the right decision. So would we make a different decision? I think to grow I think to grow the business, sometimes it's going to be a rocky start, but there's always going to be there's always going to be growing pains. But at the same time, like I said, the family went ahead and agreed with us in the long run. So at the same time, I feel like it's a great decision. So now I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Abigail to give you all the rest of the decisions.
Hello, my name is Abigail Mignon. I'll be discussing 3 of the decisions we made as a group. In decision number 4, our choices were to build a mixed board or to retain a family-only board. And our final choice was to retain a family-only board. Pros to that decision were the flexibility with life issues. Decisions are made more quickly just because it's communication between family members. And then hiring and promotions are made within the family. This is what ultimately the family wanted. So we listened to the family's input. And they were very happy with that decision. And then if later on they wanted to, move away from that and they just decided to add in, a mixed board, that was something that they could do as the business grows. And then moving on to decision number 5, between continuing to self-fund the business or to move away from that and acquire external funds. The pros to that, the final decision we made in acquiring external funds, was that we would have funds more quickly as the business is growing, opportunities to acquire new equipment, the ability to have that emergency relief fund, and then just the opportunity to grow as a business. The family did not agree with this decision, but we felt that ultimately this is what the business needed in order to continue to grow. So if we did have to make this decision again, we would continue with the same decision that we made to acquire the external funds. And then for decision number 6, was to decide between focusing on and enhancing current product lines or to launch R&D efforts into personal products. Our choice was to focus on and enhance current product lines. We felt that staying true to the foundation of the honey business was important, and then the consistency within the business, of course the higher quality of honey, because we are focusing on one thing and everyone would be focused on the same goal. The family was very happy with this decision. We listened to their input and then ultimately we decided what would be best for the family and for the business, and staying true to who we are was very important. If we had to make this decision again, we would stay with focusing and enhancing the current product lines. So thank you very much. I'll be passing it over to Jessie.
Hello, my name is Jessie Henson, and I will be explaining decisions 7, 8, and 9. Decision 7 is where we had to decide who was going to be the new CEO of our company. We had a choice between choosing Aileen and opening up a formal CEO search. The pro in choosing Aileen is that the business would continue to be operated by the family, ensuring Liam's children had a stable job for years to come. However, the cons outweighed the pros because sadly Aileen didn't have the qualifications to be the company's next CEO. This means that the company could have essentially ended with Aileen because she would have been unable to run the company correctly. The second option was to open a formal CEO search. The major pro in this would be that whoever got hired would have the knowledge and skills to be fully capable of running the company and keep it in good standing. This choice would bring about a huge negative reaction from the family, though. We chose to hire a new qualified CEO, which would ensure our company lasted for years to come. This resulted in Liam's children losing their operating roles. They did, however, stay on the board, but this didn't stop other family members from leaving the board due to our decision. I think we made the correct choice in choosing a qualified person, but I would have loved a choice to hire Liam's nephew, Henry, as CEO based on his qualifications and enthusiasm in the company. Decision 8 is where we were tasked with filling the empty seats on the board. We could either leave the seats empty or fill them with outside practitioners. One pro in leaving the seats empty was that once again the board stays as family only. However, this decision also continues the family conflict that currently encases the board. Choosing outsiders to join the board would bring about new ideas and opinions. This would also help alleviate some of the conflict that is currently distracting the all-family board from their duties. This decision would cause the family to lose some of their control on business decisions and could cause some to lose their emotional ties that they have with the business. We eventually made the decision to invite outsiders to the board. This resulted in the CEO being very happy and relieved that she can now do her job. Some of the family members were not convinced that outsiders had enough knowledge about our company to make the correct decisions when it came to running it, though. I believe we did make the correct decision. Had we chosen differently, I believe that our CEO would not have been as efficient in running our business. Lastly, decision 9 is when we had to decide if we wanted to set up a governance for the minor shareholders. If we chose not to, the family probably would have been happy with fewer rules and more power to make any decisions they wanted. This would have left the company with zero guidance on making those decisions, though. In setting up a governance, the rules would be established and there would be accountability and opportunity to properly manage the business. This would lead to a certain amount of confidence in knowing what was expected. This choice could alienate some of the family members that did not understand the point in setting up the governance. We chose to go ahead and set up the governance. Surprisingly, the family agreed that it was the correct decision, and they now feel secure in knowing what their benefits are. This was the best decision, and now the company can continue on good terms for years to come.
Alrighty, hi everyone. I had decision number 10. This decision had us decide whether or not we wanted to focus on our honey division or sell the honey division and move fully into cosmetics. The pros of keeping our honey division would be that we can focus and improve our already successful honey products. Obviously, con would be if we only focus on our honey products, then we put all of our eggs in that one basket and, something could go bad and we'd be at a higher risk there. For decision number 2, which would be to sell the honey and move into cosmetics. A pros is that we diversify and it could lead to a more stable future, but then the con is that it is a big risk, and to enter like a new market and trying to sell a new product, you'd never know, it may not work out. Yeah. And then our choice, we decided to keep the honey division. Whenever we did that, the family was actually happy because they liked that we didn't throw away like the roots of the company and give up on what the company was founded on. So the family was happy that we stayed with the focus on honey. A different option that would have been good maybe would be like a mixed products where it's honey and then maybe also some cosmetics instead of one or the other. That's it for this decision.
So decision 3 was one of the first decisions that we had to make. Made us choose whether we were going to be a close-knit family operations or actually bring in some people from outside. So our decision, of course, was to hire professionals. We figured that, to help alleviate some of the stress between, the family members that were operating different parts of the business. To make the comparison with deconstructing conflict, in Chapter 2, there's a section about the external factors that could help, manage some of the decisions that we ended up going with. It talks about how the economic cycles change, regulatory issues, technical advances, things like that, the family members might not be familiar with. Just to have like a plan in place, that's something that we can definitely consider next time we do make a decision that involves bringing in people from outside. At the end of the day, we thought it was a good decision because of the results. We don't want a family business to be destroyed because they're not capable of working through stress or being in unfamiliar territories as the business grows larger.
I had decision 4 conflict, and going back real quick, so decision 4 had to do with bringing in a mixed board instead of having the family only board. That is, what they had. I remember there was some conflict here in the group. We had to kind of figure out consensus, but the biggest questions for this conflict was, should we bring in outside help on the board or just continue with the family owned and operated board? And then another issue with bringing in the outside talent is, will the outside talent manage and run the business better and more carefully than the family would? That was the options there, or the questions there. And yeah, that it is true. I mean, bringing in the outside talent maybe can lead to a more professional board, and maybe they do have more expertise and knowledge, running a business, and they could run the business better and smoother. And then cons would be with the family more so than anything. I would say like tearing up the family. There were already some family members who, seemed like they didn't like the direction that the business was going. So yeah, those were the conflicts. We ended up deciding to keep the family on the board so that they can have more power in the company still. And so yeah, that's it for my part. Thank you.
So my name is Francisco, and I am doing deconstructing the conflict. And the biggest decision I think that could have caused conflict was decision 7. Reason was because we were on the border between having a fully fledged company to going the different route. In the past decisions, it was kind of iffy. At one point, we retained the family board, but the other point, we hired outside professionals. That made an impact, but I think this one made a real big impact. Personally, in our group, it wasn't too much of a conflict because the CEO had to leave and the daughter or the sibling was not ready. It was pretty easy, but it could have been one of the worst conflicts because it could have been between keeping a family together or keeping a business together. We asked ourselves a couple of questions. Was the family company wanting to keep its full family name or reach out? Is the next generation ready to take over the company? That was the hardest question for us. The other question that lingered is, do we still have the leverage? Leverage as in keeping the company, having the profits, and not just being the side person. And the last one, how big of a risk will it be taking for the company? You know, if we take Aline, would she run it down to the ground? And if we take the CEO, would they kick us out? And that was just something we talked about for a little bit. And I felt like in other groups, it could have been a real big conflict within, not just in the simulation, but within the groups, because you were playing with a lot of things at that time, and the outcome, a lot of people left, which makes sense because moving on to the chapter, deconstruction conflict, it wasn't just a normal job for people. It was dream. As you notice, I highlighted giving up childhood dreams are not entitled to. Reason being is growing up in a company like that, and through the chapters, it explains that some people, it's their identity. It's something they want to do. They've been dreaming about it since childhood, since they see mom and dad do it, and they wanted to take over. This conflict wasn't just about wanting the job. It was about who's getting their dream set, who's getting ready for the next chapter in their life, because it was boom or bust for them. And it was really important for the kids to say, hey, I want that job, and or that cousin, hey, I want to be in the family business. You sometimes have to make hard choices, and making those hard choices, you have to remember it's necessary to look at their identities and maybe reach out to them and say, hey, no, you've been thinking about this for a long time, but I don't think you're ready yet. I'm gonna put this person in charge for now. And I know one of the biggest discussions we had was, can we put Henry as CEO? That could have worked if we could. And I think part of the simulation was not to put Henry in charge, to make this conflict in the way. If we could have chose any family member, I think most of us would have agreed with Henry. He seemed ready for the job, he seemed excited about the company, and it seemed like we were able to trust him.
Alrighty, so now we're on part number 3, which is going to be the takeaways. So I'm going to go ahead and open up with the lesson learned number 1. Here, just to go ahead and show you the words of bold that I have right here, is going to be the lack of communication. So let's go ahead and break down what I wrote here. So it's going to be the lack of communication in the sense of achieving the same goals in the business, and the growth that they're just striving for. It's gonna there was just not that communication. I feel like a lot of the family members just had different ideas, and I feel like there wasn't that just union that they wanted to go ahead and get the same goals. So for example, if Liam wanted to go ahead and bring new people in for marketing, CEOs, there's some family members that just did not agree. They wanted to do it all themselves. And I feel like if there was a little bit more structure and they kind of understood the assignment, I just feel like there wouldn't be that kind of conflict. And for example, I have a perfect example here. So I talked about it earlier, but when the outside CEOs were being scouted, a lot of the family members just had an issue with this just because they didn't think it was a good idea. But as the time went on, like I said earlier, again, just those growing pains happened, and then eventually they found out that it was a really good decision. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Ramon so he can go ahead and talk about lesson learned number 2.
So another lesson we learned doing the simulation was that, conflicts and disputes are pretty much almost inevitable. To a certain point, it's almost healthy to have them, but you want to be able to, resolve them correctly. There's a lot into understanding what it takes to resolve either a dispute or a conflict. Another thing we figured as we went through the simulation was that everyone has their own opinions. A lot of decisions that we made, some of the family members were happy with, and a lot of the other ones weren't so happy. But because they were a family, they stuck together regardless of the decision that was made. At the end of the simulation, everything went okay. We were average pretty much in family and in business. So there's just a couple of things that we can learn from that if we ever do decide to take a family venture on in real life. Don't be scared of the conflicts and disputes that arise, and learn how to deal with them.
And that's going to lead us to the end of our presentation. Thank you so much for watching.